And you're watching and listening to the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman with Ali Abunimah. Ali, we're once again happy to be joined by award-winning British Palestinian novelist and playwright Ahmed Masoud, joining us from the UK. Hi, Ahmed. So good to see you
Hi,
again.
hi Nora. Good to see you. Hi Ali. Good to see you
Hi,
again.
Ahmed. Great to see you.
So, I mean, the grief is relentless and it's unending. Just a few hours ago, you posted that yesterday your step-grandmother, Yusra, passed away. You wrote that she died of a heart stroke while in a tent in Khan Yunis. The heat and lack of nutrition and medical care in Gaza killed her. The Israeli genocide kills in many ways. Of course, we want to express our deep condolences to you and your family. What are you hearing from your relatives in Khan Yunis about the situation right now?
I mean, I think this tweet really summarizes it all in terms of what they're going through at the moment. I made a mistake in the post in there. I wrote stepmother, but she's my step-grandmother. She's actually, in a way, my real grandmother, as it were, because she was the one who looked after me. I had a relationship with her, a direct relationship with her, more than my actual sort of blood grandmother, as it were. So yeah, I'm feeling the kind of sense of loss at the moment and grief for a woman who's seen so much in her life, so much. One of them is obviously having her son who was in Israeli prison for 10 years and sort of having to live through that. I was speaking to another uncle who lives now in Egypt, who also managed to evacuate in Egypt, and he was in grief and in tears to actually kind of feel that sense of loss about her, because he left Saudi, where he used to work, to go and support her, and then the war started, and then he hadn't spoken to her for about 7 months since the genocide started. I myself haven't spoken to her since they moved out of their home in Gaza and went to a tent on the beach. So yeah, it's exactly that. It's really what it says on the tin in there, in terms of, they're in the tent. It's really hot. I think your first guest, Abu Bakr, talked about lizards and snakes and all sorts of illnesses coming because of the heat. It's incredibly hot at the moment in Gaza, and it has been for the last few weeks. And I feel that people are not paying attention to those kind of type of sufferings and this death. I mean, for me, she was killed by the Israelis. I don't think she had a heart stroke, but in another life, in other circumstances, she would have been saved. She would have been taken to hospital. She would have received medical care. So it's one of those things where you feel, well, she is a casualty of war for sure, but the statistics don't say so.
Yeah.
Allah yarhamha, and to think of all that she lived through and all that she saw in her life. And she, like all of our elders, deserved a dignified life.
Indeed.
And we're very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Ahmed, during your previous visits with us, you talked about the really difficult and dreadful situation that your mother faced, displaced from her home like almost everyone else in Gaza. And for months, you didn't even know if she was still alive. Fortunately, she is still alive, and she was able to evacuate to Egypt with your sister a few weeks ago. And you just returned from visiting Cairo, where you saw her. Tell us, Ahmed, how is your mother doing, and what was the experience like? What is her experience like having evacuated to Egypt? And we're just so happy to see you there with her in that picture.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this picture, I think I want to print it and frame it, because this is something I never thought that I would be there. I never thought for many months that I would actually be able to see her again and hug her like that, and actually be able to connect with her. Ali, I think it was one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life, one of the most difficult trips. And I've done a few difficult trips. I've been to Gaza, traveled to Gaza in very difficult circumstances on previous wars. I stayed on the road for 5 days, traveling from Cairo to Gaza with the kids, sleeping on the road on checkpoints, in cafes, trying to reach to my family and see my family. I went to Gaza in 2009, and I was stuck there in Gaza for about 6 months, lost my job in London and all of that. So I've done difficult trips before, and I know what they are like. But this one was probably the most difficult I've done in my life, or anybody could do. There was a woman in there who was for a long time assumed dead in my mind, because that's the best I could do to comfort myself and to really go through this emotion and to cope. For me personally, to cope is to assume the worst, that she was dead. But then she wasn't, she was alive. Then there was this massive operation. No, this step before that, even before that, then to realize that she had lost her son, my brother, and hadn't known about it for 3 months. From January until April, hadn't known anything about it. She knew that there were some stuff happening. He might have been injured, but she didn't know that he was killed. And then there was this woman that now I know that she's alive and she's my mother. And I had to make the decision to evacuate her and to get her to Egypt. And that in itself, as you know, is a massive operation. Just this part of actually registering her name on the border, paying $10,000 to a corrupt Egyptian company in Cairo, getting the whole money in cash, in dollars, in Cairo to pay for that. Trying to sort of convince my sister to leave with her because my mother is so ill, she can't leave. And all of that, it just took so much time, so many emotions, so many disappointments and challenges. And I'm grateful for all the support that people have given, including yourself, Ali, and others, that allowed me and enabled me to do this. And somehow, miraculously, she got her name registered, and she... also thanks to the Egyptian writer 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐿, who helped us with the money transfer and all of these things. Maybe I shouldn't mention names in here, but it was such a relief moment to actually have her name registered. And then when she left, her name came on the list, and I knew that the name was on the list, but until 4 a.m., she didn't know that her name was on the list. She was still in Khan Yunis. And I had to do my best to phone and make sure that she got it, because if she missed her turn, then that's it, that she can't leave. And she left on the Saturday, and then the Israelis went into Rafah and took over the border on the Monday. So it's like one day after, that's it, everything closed, and she wouldn't have been able to leave. So that was in itself sort of an emotional journey, which, like, for me, it was so difficult, incredibly difficult to follow up and to manage operationally, I suppose, is to actually manage all the communication with the different stakeholders, getting the money, communicating with my mum, with my sister, with all the challenges that And she went out. I waited a few weeks because I wanted to, because I thought she's still very fragile. She needs to receive some medication. She needs to get some her energy back. And she did, and I went to see her a few weeks ago. And like I said, it was the most difficult thing. There was this woman who was very fragile, very emotional, very, she was like a big child, somebody who's experiencing things for the first time in her life. She has traveled. She did go to Egypt many times. She, in fact, visited me in London in 2011. So she has experience in travel. But somehow, I think she was obviously still shell-shocked. Everything around it, she heard an ambulance passing by or a police car, she would be really, really shaken and scared. And just that sort of state in betweenness, that she doesn't know where she is, in a sense. It's almost like she's in a coma. She doesn't know where she is. She's following the news closely. Her heart and her mind are there in Gaza, but not really sort of there. She's there by body. Lots of tears shed, of course, lots of emotional offloading. I've heard stories about how they evacuated from the north in Jabalia to the south and what they've experienced on the way, the shooting, the quadcopters that shot at them. I heard stories of the Israeli tanks going into Al-Mawasi area, which is supposed to be a safe zone. I heard stories of these very same tanks running over people alive and killing them alive. And I've heard stories of cousins that I didn't even know that they were killed, actually. It's a close cousin that I grew up with on the street. So very, very difficult to hear all of this and to get that emotional download from my mum. But it was very important, and I needed to do that, and she needed that. I took her to Alexandria, and that was a fun trip that I wanted her to, and I wanted to take her out and buy her some food and clothes and all of these things. And it was funny because she was like almost hesitant to eat the fish that I bought in the fish restaurant I took her, and she was like, "But your brothers and sisters are not eating this." And I was like, "Yes, I know, but you haven't eaten for a long time. You need to eat." And she just cried. She just kept breaking into tears because like she's feeling that pain that she's holding this fish, trying to eat like a simple fish, while her kids in Gaza can't have it, unfortunately. Yeah, and then came the time I had to leave, and I had to leave to come back to London. And she was like a little child again. She couldn't let go, and she was telling me that I lost a child before. I don't want to lose another one. And it was very strange because she knows, of course, that I'm well traveled. She knows that I'm capable, and all of these things. But she was very, very clingy, very, very difficult, and very incredibly emotional. And this is sort of the emotional challenge is one thing. The other challenge is obviously the kind of legal status in Egypt, because she doesn't have a legal status there, which for my mum it might be a little bit easier because she's an older woman, but for my sister it's a lot harder, of course. And also I have friends who managed to evacuate from Gaza into Cairo. And just when I want to mention this very quickly, so whoever evacuated from Gaza to Cairo or Egypt, they have no legal status whatsoever, you know. So they're there without any visa, without any sort of legal status in the country, which means they can't get any healthcare, their kids can't go to school, their kids can go to private schools only. But even if they go to a private school and you pay high fees, their kids can't even get a certificate. So it's almost like pointless, as it were. So there are about almost 80,000 people who evacuated from Gaza to Cairo, and they're sort of stuck in that state in betweenness of nothing. Are they there? Are they here? You're not quite sure. They can't really move or do like what people do of exploring different areas in Egypt in case they're stopped by the police or checkpoints by the army and they're asked about their legal status. So it's a really, really, really awful situation for them.
That just seems impossible. And you know, I mean, if your mom is going through so much trauma, obviously, and it must have been really unbearable for you to see her in that state and to have to leave, and especially with the very like you know, tenuous circumstances for her politically, legally. It's relentless.
And for her to have learned after so many months about the murder of your brother Khalid in January, and
that's unbearable.
who you're still grieving for as well. And just our hearts go out to you, Ahmed, and we hope and pray that you'll be reunited with your mother soon, and that she will be able to also live a life of dignity and security. The scale of it for everyone is just overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, we have just a few minutes left, and you're in London, and you know, along with everything else that's going on, there are elections happening tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
And I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the significance of the elections, especially when it comes to the UK's support of this genocide against your family and your community.
Yeah, I mean, I think tomorrow is a really an historic opportunity for everybody to express their kind of democracy, I suppose, if democracy really exists. I think for me, it's really simple. If your MP or member of parliament hasn't voted for a ceasefire in Gaza, then you shouldn't vote for them. End of story. Please don't put party politics before anything else. Please don't vote tactfully or all of that thing that people in the UK do. Because it's simple. It's a humanitarian crisis in there. It's a political situation that we can end. We can put pressure on people and we can create change. We've been demonstrating, people have been demonstrating across the street. 1 million people at some point went out in demonstrations in London. If those 1 million people can influence just 5 other people, they can make a huge difference in terms of the political scene in the UK. And this is not just about creating a difference or a change in the political arena in the UK, but also it's about actually saying that people really care about what is happening and about, the fact that we've been demanding a ceasefire for such a long time and it hasn't happened. Neither leader of the party has agreed to it or voiced their support to it at all. And I think it's an important opportunity tomorrow to kind of use that to express your voice. And I hope that if people do and listen to this message, and I think if it doesn't, I can't really stay in the UK anymore. I think, with the current policy and what they're happening, I mean, my mum was telling me about the British drones that are flying over Gaza. I mean, how does my mum know about it? Do you know what I mean? A 70-year-old woman who's telling me, your British government is sending drones over Gaza. Why are they doing that? Now the British government is blocking the ICC arrest warrant as well. I mean, why would you want to do that? And why would you want to be associated with such an awful entity and regime? Why would you want to do that? So I'm hoping that people can wake up tomorrow and send a clear message to politicians that you have to be on the right side of history. Otherwise, you're out. You can't be a representative of all of us.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we will absolutely be watching what happens on that front. Again, just deep condolences for your step-grandmother. We are so glad that you've been able to find the time to speak with us today. And, thank you so much for writing to keep us all, informed, and especially, the posts that you make about your family and about your neighborhood back in Gaza are so moving. And I'm always very, very appreciative and grateful for you, Ahmed.
Thank you, Nora.
And it's hard. It must be terribly difficult to air so much pain and loss in public. But the fact that you that you tell us about your family, about your community, is a service and a reminder to all of us that Gaza is life. It's a vibrant society. It's love, and it's a great loss what has happened.
Yeah,
it is indeed.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.